My name is Erica Marlo. I never thought I would share this story, but after what Jesus showed me in my death experience, I realized I had no choice. What I saw was too important to keep to myself, especially when we are living in these times. It happened on September 12, 2025. I was driving home from my shift as a nurse at St. Mary's Hospital. It had been a long day, and I was looking forward to getting home to my husband and our 2 children. The last thing I remember is seeing headlights coming toward me on that slippery road in the rain. Then, everything went silent. They told me later that my heart stopped for 7 minutes. But in those 7 minutes, I was more alive than I had ever been. At first, I didn't understand what was happening. I saw the scene from above. My car twisted, the flashing red lights, people rushing, but I felt no pain, no panic. Instead, I felt a stillness that words can't describe. It was as if all the noise of the world had faded, leaving only peace. I wanted to cry for my children, but even that emotion dissolved in the light that surrounded me. A voice, not loud, but filled with infinite authority, called my name. Erica. It was not a voice I heard with my ears, but one I felt deep inside my soul. In that instant, I knew who it was. Jesus. I wish I could tell you how he looked, but his presence was beyond human form. More like light within light, love within love. Every part of me was exposed before him. My failures, my fears, my hidden doubts. Yet his gaze carried no judgment. Only mercy. He said, "My child, I have brought you here for a purpose. What I am about to show you must be shared. Many of my people are asleep." I tried to answer but found no words. My thoughts spoke for me. Lord, I'm just a nurse. Who would listen to me? He smiled, a smile that felt like sunrise after endless night, and said, "I have always used the humble to confound the wise. Speak what you see. I will do the rest." Then before I could respond, I felt myself being drawn upward, through light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Memories of my life flashed not as punishment, but as understanding. Every small act of kindness, every prayer I once whispered and forgot, appeared like sparks in the darkness. I realized how precious every moment was, and how much I had taken for granted. When the light grew brighter, I felt something inside me breaking open. A deep awareness that life is not about survival, but surrender. Surrender to love. Surrender to faith. Surrender to God. And as the light enveloped me completely, I heard him say again, gently, "Erica, what you are about to see will test your spirit, but fear not, for I am with you." That was the moment everything changed. The light around me grew stronger until I could no longer tell where it ended, and I began. It was as if I had become part of it, weightless, transparent, yet more alive than I had ever been. And then through that brilliance, I saw him clearly. Jesus stood before me, not as a distant figure from paintings or stories, but as living presence itself. His eyes were like rivers of mercy, knowing everything yet condemning nothing. I felt like a child standing before eternal love. He said softly, "Erica, I am going to show you what is hidden, what many hearts cannot yet see." With a gesture of his hand, the light shifted, and suddenly we were standing in what looked like a city, familiar yet different. The streets were filled with people moving in perfect rhythm. They smiled, they talked, they lived, but something was missing. There was no depth in their eyes, no spark of freedom. I noticed that every action they took seemed guided by something unseen. Some lifted their hands near glowing panels, others touched their wrists to doors and screens. I asked, "Lord, what are they doing?" He replied, "They believe they are free, but they are being shaped by the system they trust. Technology has become their comfort, their guide, even their God." As he spoke, I saw people paying for food with a flick of the hand, a small light glowing beneath their skin. Children proudly showed their glowing wrists to teachers. Parents said, "It's for safety, for health, for peace." But behind the convenience, I felt a chill. Something deeply wrong. Jesus looked at me, his eyes filled with sorrow. "This is how the deception begins," he said. "The enemy never shows his full hand. He starts with what looks helpful, kind, and smart. But soon, people will no longer be able to live without it. Their hearts will trust the system more than they trust me." I wanted to cry. I thought about my own children, how easily we trade faith for comfort, How easily we forget God when life feels easy. I asked, Lord, how can they be saved from this? He turned toward the horizon, where the light was fading into shadow. By knowing my voice, he answered. By seeking me now, before the darkness deepens. When you return, tell them, not to fear technology, but to guard their hearts. Tell them to choose faith over fear, truth over comfort. Tell them I am still with them. The city faded, and once again I stood in the light, trembling, humbled, and full of awe. Then he said something that still echoes in my soul. My child, those who walk in light will not be deceived. But they must wake up now, before it is too late. And in that moment, I felt the weight of his words settle in my spirit. I knew I had to tell this story, even if no one believed me. If you are listening to this now, it is not by accident. Perhaps God is calling you too. Type Amen in the comments if you feel His presence speaking to your heart. And subscribe so that together, we can keep sharing His light. For those who walk with Jesus will never walk in darkness. The next moment, the light around us dimmed. The city that had once glowed with brightness now shimmered under a colder hue. A kind of beauty that felt hollow, artificial. Jesus stood beside me in silence as we watched people move like waves in a vast system. They smiled, they worked, they lived, but I could sense something missing deep within them. Their souls were quieter, almost asleep. Then, with a voice that carried both love and sorrow, he said, My child, this is what the world will soon call progress. The scene shifted. I saw classrooms where children no longer looked up from glowing devices. Teachers no longer taught. The system taught for them. Each child wore a small shining mark, a tiny light beneath the skin of their hand. They are told it's for protection, Jesus said softly. Parents believe it keeps their children safe. But it is the first chain of control. As he spoke, I saw governments praising the new technology. It solved hunger, stopped diseases, controlled climate, connected minds. But with every solution, a small piece of freedom disappeared. People stopped asking questions. Churches began to call it a blessing from God. Pastors said, it's just innovation. God uses science too. And so the world drifted further from truth. Not by rebellion, but by comfort. I turned to Jesus and said, Lord, they don't even realize they're being deceived. He nodded gently. That is how deception works. The enemy never takes by force, he invites by choice. He knows that fear will awaken my people, so he uses comfort instead. Suddenly, the vision grew darker. I saw headlines flashing, global collapse, banking failure, food shortages. People panicked. They cried out for answers, for security. Then, world leaders appeared on screens everywhere, smiling with calm assurance. They offered one solution, an upgrade to the system. They said it would end the chaos, restore peace, and unite all nations. And the people, desperate, weary, afraid, accepted it. Families gathered and said, This is for our future. This is for our children. But as each one received the upgrade, a shadow entered their hearts. Their eyes lost warmth. Their prayers lost meaning. And their spirits grew silent. Jesus said, This is the mark that was foretold. Not a symbol forced by violence, but a choice disguised as progress. I trembled. Lord, will there be any who resist? His face shone with compassion. Yes, he said. There will always be those who refuse. They will lose much in this world, food, work, safety, but they will keep what truly matters, their souls. I saw small groups of people gathered in simple homes, praying by candlelight. They had little, but their faith was radiant. Their peace was beyond human reason. Angels surrounded them, unseen by the world. Jesus turned to me again, his tone both urgent and tender. Tell them, Erica. Tell them not to fear, but to awaken. Tell them to guard their hearts, for what comes will look good, but will steal their souls. Tell them that I am still here, calling, waiting, forgiving. And as he spoke, I felt my heart breaking for the world. So many were asleep, walking into chains made of gold. The vision changed again. The world I saw was no longer bright or peaceful. It was divided. Two paths stretched before me, like rivers flowing in opposite directions. On one side, cities gleamed with perfection. Skyscrapers shimmered like glass, people smiled. Systems ran without error. Everything looked ideal, but I could sense a quiet death within the order. The people had everything they wanted, except freedom. Their hearts were synchronized, their words rehearsed. They didn't argue, didn't pray, didn't question. They were efficient but empty. Jesus said, "They have traded the eternal for the temporary." They wanted peace without my presence, safety without surrender. And so they built their own heaven without me. Across from that glittering world was another place, simple, unpolished, poor. Families huddled together in candlelight, praying softly. Their clothes were worn, their tables bare, but their eyes, oh, their eyes shone with fire. They had nothing of the world, yet carried everything that mattered. "These are my faithful ones," Jesus said, his voice filled with tenderness. "They refused the mark, though the world mocked and starved them. They chose me over comfort. They chose faith over fear." I looked again, and saw persecution rise like a storm. Those who followed Christ were labeled as dangerous, outdated, even hateful. Some were imprisoned, others were silenced. But the more they were pressed, the brighter they burned. Jesus continued, "The line is being drawn. Every soul will choose, not by words, but by allegiance of the heart. There is no middle ground. The lukewarm will not stand." His words pierced me. I thought of my own compromises, the times I prayed only when life hurt, the times I chose silence over truth. And then I understood, the greatest battle isn't fought outside, but within every human heart. "Lord," I whispered, "is there still hope for those who are asleep?" He turned toward me with a gaze both sorrowful and bright. "There is always hope while there is breath. But they must awaken now. Soon choice will no longer be choice. It will be habit. Tell them to seek me before the world defines who they are." The two worlds before me began to blur, light and darkness twisting together. Then his hand touched my shoulder, and peace washed over me. "Do not fear for what is coming," he said. "Fear only a life without me." And as his words echoed, the vision dissolved into light once more. I realized this message was not meant to frighten, but to awaken. A warning, and a promise. The light began to shift again, softer now, warmer, as if heaven itself was breathing peace. I knew my time there was ending. Jesus looked at me, and in his eyes was a depth I cannot describe, both sorrow and hope woven together like light and rain. "Erica," he said gently, "you must go back." My heart sank. "Lord, please. I don't want to leave you. Not after this." He reached out, and when his hand touched mine, I felt every fear dissolve. "My child," he said, "your work is not finished. Tell them what you have seen. Tell them that I am real. Tell them that time is short, but my mercy is great." His voice carried a strength that went beyond sound. It went straight into my soul. "Tell them," he continued, "that I do not ask for perfection. I ask for hearts. Even the smallest whisper of faith can move heaven if it's born from love. Remind them to forgive, to pray, to choose kindness over comfort. Because love, not fear, will be their shield in the days ahead." As he spoke, visions flooded around us. People praying in secret, families sharing bread and faith, strangers helping one another in the ruins of a broken world. And through it all, I saw his light, never fading, never defeated. Then Jesus smiled, that same radiant smile that first met me in the light, and said, "I am coming soon. Tell them not to waste their days chasing what cannot last. Tell them eternity is real. Death is not the end. And when they call my name, I will hear." Before I could answer, the light around me began to pull away, like waves receding from the shore. I cried out, "Lord, don't let me forget." He whispered, "You won't, for my spirit will remind you." And then suddenly darkness. A heartbeat. A gasp. The sharp scent of antiseptic, the sound of machines. I opened my eyes, and I was back, in the hospital room. Doctors staring in disbelief, my husband crying at my side. They said I had been gone for 7 minutes. But I knew I had seen eternity. Now, months later, I live differently. I no longer fear death. I speak softly but boldly of what I saw. I tell everyone who will listen. Jesus is real. His light is real. And he is coming soon. So if you are hearing my voice now, this message is not just for me. It's for you. Don't let the noise of the world drown out the whisper of heaven. Pray, forgive, love deeply, and hold fast to faith, even when the world calls it foolishness. Because when your final hour comes, and it will, the only thing that will matter is this: did you know him? If this message has touched your heart, type Amen in the comments. And subscribe so together we can share his truth and light with the world. For every soul that awakens brings joy to heaven. May Jesus bless you, protect you, and keep your heart awake until the day we see his face again.